I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I've been a musician and passionate music lover for as long as I can remember, and spent a stupid amount of time listening to mostly new music every week. Get involved and help grow this community. Follow on socials, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, and soon a YouTube channel too, and email me 10,000indie@gmail.com if you have any ideas or want to get involved in the podcast itself. I'd love to hear from you. Barrens are a three-piece post-rock band, at least I think they're a post-rock band, featuring Johan Winter on guitar and synth, Kenneth Jansson on bass and synth, and Markku Hildén on drums and percussion. Hailing from Göteborg and Malmö, Sweden, the band were formed from the ashes of a 20-year-long run in previous band, Scraps of Tape. The first single from their upcoming second album received airplay on Radio 1's Rock Show in the UK, and so far there have been 2 songs made public from it. I've been lucky enough to have an advanced listen to what is an absolute powerhouse of an album, Corpse Light, which is due for release on September the 12th. And I'm chatting with Johan from the band about the upcoming release and more. Welcome to the podcast, Johan.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have a chance to chat about your fantastic new album. Firstly, I want to say congratulations. This album is really, really epic. I really love it.
Thank you so much. You're one of the first to hear it.
So you've all been at this for a while, albeit in different bands previously. Do you still get excited about a new release the way you did when you were younger?
No. to be honest, no. That's a really good question, actually. Yeah, we've been playing music since our early teens and been in bands. Like, we've been part of like the DIY community, and like all of our bands started out doing releases, you know, the way you like it was CDRs back then, like tapes and CDRs. You met up and you copied all the copies yourself, and you folded the covers and everything. And back then, it was like, of course, like when you start something, it's a huge deal. And looking back at things like that now, you tend to like, maybe the music isn't that good, but like the spirit and the ideas and like the creativity was just fantastic, which is it's kind of fun because we're actually getting a re-release, a reissue of the first Scraps of Tape album on vinyl for the first time, and we were talking about it in connection to releasing the new album. And this far in our careers, I'm still as excited and happy about releasing my music. But it's more on a personal level, because you tend to be you're able to like put a bow on it and kind of move on in a way, which is something that's very important for me. I tend to nurture like my music to the point where I release it and then it's not mine anymore. You know, it's a classic way of seeing it, but I'm excited about releasing it and being able to make the new album move into its new stage, which is performing it live and everything that's connected to like the aftermath of writing it and recording it and mixing it and everything. I'm excited in another way.
Yeah, well, I mean, this album's taken you 5 years since the last album, so I guess this one's been a real labour of love, and you've taken your time.
It's been both. Like we happened upon like the fact that I'm in Blessings as well, which is also taken a bunch of years since our last album. For various reasons, we're going to release like both albums this fall, like in just 1 month apart. A few years back, we would probably have been more stressed out about it taking like 5 years between albums. Yeah, I was a bit stressed out about it after like 2 years in, because the guys at Pelagic, like Robin and all the others, have been really nice to us. Yeah, Robin really liked Scraps of Tape. So we met during a Scraps of Tape tour, and then when I mentioned to him that we have this new band, and he was like, just send it over. And I had hardly pressed send before I got like a nice email back from him. It was like, this is great. We'd like to release this. They took a chance on us being a totally new band. So I felt kind of a responsibility to like deliver new music pretty quickly. but at no point have they been stressing us out about it. And after a few years, you kind of like, okay, this is taking a bit longer than we thought it would. And that was probably a good thing, because if we would have released something closer to the first album, it would have been more similar to that. We got the chance to really think about what we wanted to do with the new album, like what is it in relation to the first album, and which parts do we want to highlight more? What are the concepts and what are the ideas behind it, and how do we amplify those in the best way?
As I've already mentioned, and you have as well, you all worked together in various ways with Scraps of Tape, which had a similar sound but with vocals, I would say. Tell me a little about how this band started.
We'd been a band with Scraps of Tape for a long time. We'd done a whole bunch of touring. So the last album we released with Scraps of Tape, we got some tours together, and then for various reasons, some of the guys couldn't do those tours. Yeah, we had this new album. We thought we really need to tour on it, because releasing it and not touring, it's just like you have a responsibility to like make it available and to the label and everything. Because we were going to China for a 2-week tour in 2018, and we had 2 European tours. So we got in contact with Markku, who is now the drummer of Barrens, and asked if he could help us out, because he lived in Malmö, as most of us did back then. And during those tours, me and Kenta, who used to play bass in Scraps of Tape as well, we realized that, we were really connecting with Markku about musical ideas, about some ideas that weren't really maybe suitable for Scraps of Tape. Like we wanted to go in like a heavier direction, and I was really interested in using synthesizers more, because I work a lot with synthesizers, like solo music. I have a big modular synthesizer, and I like old vintage synths. During those tours, basically all the downtime when you're in a bar after the gig, or you're in the van, or you're on a train or something, you're kind of like picking out certain small fragments of ideas. And then when we got back from those tours, it was kind of like, I think we have something here. Like we have something we should explore. So we met up. I'd basically written the whole first album, like demo-wise, and I sent those demos over, and they were like, yeah, this sounds exciting. Let's have a look at it. And then we met up in the rehearsal space and fleshed out the ideas and kind of worked the songs into a certain shape. And then we got in contact with Christopher, who is the producer of our both records, who is Christopher Jönsson, who lives in Uppsala, who used to be in a band called Jennifer Ever, and also played with I Break Horses. We knew he was, because he produced the last Scraps of Tape album, and that the collaboration on that album was really nice, and we found a connection there as well. And then together with Christopher, who I more or less consider like a member of Barrens as well, just he lives far away and he is super busy, but like without him, it would be different. Like he's super important to the sound and the ideas. He's such a great collaborator for this. Together with him, it all came together pretty quickly. Like the first album we recorded, got the demos together pretty quickly, recorded pretty quickly, and it kind of took off. And then COVID happened, because we released it right in 2020. So
you're hoping, obviously, with this album, you'll get more of a chance to get out there while it's fresh.
Being older, our drummer had 2 kids during the pandemic, so his situation changed a lot. And we've always been like family first. Like we're not career musicians, so that's super important for us. Yeah, we won't like fire someone just because they can't do a tour or something. That's super important that everybody is like the family first. Now the situation is quite different. We have a chance to get out more. We have some things lined up for the fall, and especially for the next spring, we hope to be able to do some more shows.
Cool. So how easy or difficult have you found it to sort of reinvent yourself after the success of the previous band and after everybody knew you? Have you managed to sort of take the same fan base that you had, or have you had to sort of reinvent yourself to the public?
Oh, I don't know. It definitely felt like we reached more people quicker with Barrens, which I guess is thanks to Pelagic. And maybe it was due to like the sound of Barrens might be more in step with like what is not popular is the wrong word, but we kind of were more in step with like the times, I think. Scraps of Tape was always a very odd bird. We seriously never felt that we fit in anywhere with that band. Post-rock crowd thought we were too little post-rock, and then the like indie rock crowd thought we were too heavy, and then the heavy crowd thought we were too soft. We always felt like we were like a odd band. And Barrens has more cohesive idea, I think, since it's been mainly me writing like the basis for most of the songs. When in Scraps of Tape we were like 3 guitarists writing all the time. I think that might be one of the things that makes it maybe easier to find an entryway into Barrens.
I guess when you're passionate about your music, you don't really think about that. It just either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah, I just got on Facebook for the first time last year because me and my son, we ride skateboards and we're in a community that only connects via Facebook. So like before that, my last social media thing besides Instagram was MySpace. So I'm really bad at keeping track. Like my son comes to me and says, "Oh, you have these many listens on Spotify." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." It's like I'm really bad at keeping track.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't find much middle ground. I find most of the people I speak to are either young and starting out, or like us in our sort of mid-40s to 60s, who, you know, we didn't grow up with social media, so we still have to really make the effort to actually do it.
It's hell. The Instagram that I've been using has been amazing for me because especially actually because I draw, I make some art. I made the cover for the new Barrens album, and like the art side of my creativity, without Instagram I wouldn't be part of any community at all. 10 years back when I started out drawing what I do now, it just really helped me develop that style and develop a sense of community. It's been amazing. I'm not bashing social media in that way, but it is a chore. We've all seen the memes about bands being reduced to making short videos on Instagram or on social media instead of actually writing music and stuff. It's funny because it's true. It's also sad because it's true. Hello, I'm Mediocre Man from local band. Please come and see our show. Big announcement, you know, next week. Oh, the single. It kind of harkens back to the question about how excited you are about releasing something. You know that to push through all the white noise of all the bands that are out there, you need to do all of that stuff, to be a dancing bear in a way. It's actually been something that we've been talking a lot about in Barrens. What are we prepared to do? What do we want to do? What are the costs? What are the pros and cons of doing that? Do we have to do it? You tend to feel like you see other bands do it. I must do it as well. But you don't really have to. Yeah, you can choose. Like in 10 years' time, you need to be able to look back at what you're doing now and be like, yeah, because that shit's still going to be on there. It's going to be available.
So how did the band get its name?
Yeah, it was through a long and arduous process. I tend to realize that band names, either you have the band name before you start the band, or it's going to be a fucking hassle to find a good band name. like all of my bands, like it's never in between. It's never like you have one meeting about it and then it's like, yeah, this sounds good. You either have it beforehand or it's going to be something that you're going to have to like work to really find. Barrens was one out of 2,000 different band name suggestions. It was, it was a friend of mine called Ari, because we had kind of whittled it down to like 10 suggestions. I just showed him the list, and he just that's it. That's the one you're going to choose. Like he said it like immediately. And I was like over it, like trying to have like these meetings about something. Just that's it. For me, Barrens is a feeling of like a landscape where it seems like dead on the surface, but there's also life beneath that surface. It's like when you see a forest fire and it's like it's burned, like things are going to grow again. And it kind of connected back to the feeling of metamorphosis that the first album was about. Feeling of change, like going from this Scraps of Tape, which had been mine and Kenneth's identity for like 20 years. I was Johan from Scraps of Tape, my social network and like the community I was in was more or less based on that. So it was a fitting band name.
Well, from my own point of view, I'm really intrigued about making music without lyrics, because as a singer myself and also a multi-instrumentalist, I really struggle if I don't have a vocal hook to work from. So how have you gone from writing songs with lyrics and things into the instrumental side? Has it been a challenge, or has it just been something that's naturally happened?
Personally, vocals have always been like the toughest part of making music. Like even in Scraps of Tape, where I was the vocalist, the vocals were like, that was the agony of being in a band. And it still is. The bands I'm in that have vocals, like in Blessings, it's mainly our bass player, Frederick, who is a genius when it comes to like writing vocal melodies and vocal ideas. For me, like the instrumental part of everything is kind of natural. It's more difficult to like write vocals and vocal lines. Vocals tend to take up so much space. There are certain bands that are able to use vocals as just another instrument, like as a texture in a way. And I prefer those bands. I like the idea of that more. I don't really warm to the idea of like it's music and then the vocals are the big thing. For me, music is like all of this, like being part of a sound where everything is like, whoa, and the listener can choose to, oh, I like that part. That part sticks out. Vocals tend to clutter the experience for me. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I mean, I'm a singer-songwriter, so for me, lyrics are so important.
Yeah, for me as well, lyrics are super important. And being so bad at writing lyrics, most lyrics for me are like, I struggle with that, and it's always second guessing. Music is another thing. It's more easy for me.
As I mentioned earlier, this will be your second album. I think the first album was much heavier than this album. I think this album's got a lot more highs and lows from what I've heard. What do you think has changed or developed between the two albums?
I'm so happy you're saying that. That's because that really flips the idea about the albums for me, because for me, this album is much heavier. That's super funny to hear.
There's a question I've got coming up, which is about the track that leads into No Light. And of course, It's got quite a soft, mellow track before it, and then boom, No Light kicks in. So for me, there's a real contrast between these very light soundscapes into this boom in the album, and I love that.
Yeah, I'm super happy to hear that. This is both the fun part and the most nervous part of releasing something, to hear what people say about it. You hear it in one way and then you go, oh, I didn't think of that. So it's great. I think that those parts are due to just because the first album we'd never played live as that band when we released that album. In a way, it was just a studio project, exploring this thing with the synths and everything. And then when we were out touring on that album, we pretty quickly incorporated, like No Light was one of the tracks that we started playing live pretty early because it was written fairly quickly. So I guess the new album is a reaction to actually playing live, wanting to have more parts where we can like calm down and like lead into heavier things to get to increase the dynamic and to expand the sound in that way. For me, the concept behind the new album is about relationships. It's a huge area that we're exploring. We have the periaston and apastron. Like the apastron is the track you're referring to, that leads into No Light. These expressions are these are names of a body, like I mess this up all the time, but a body, like a celestial body in connection in orbit around another bigger celestial body or a star or something. I think I always mix these up, but one of the expressions is when it's closest to the other body in a relationship, and then the other is when it's the furthest away in the orbit. I happened upon this idea and I started to think about how people and relationships work, where you are closer to someone in certain moments and then you kind of drift away from each other, and usually you kind of find your way back. It made me realize that a lot of relationships that are worthwhile are cyclical, just as our times, which we see that a lot in current times, that we don't really learn. It seems like humanity needs to like cycle back through good and bad times for some reason we can't really move forward in a linear fashion. We need to like whoa. So that made me kind of want to explore that type of relationship between both sounds and between like tracks, to move closer and further away. For me, the same ideas kind of like bounce around the album and has different expressions in certain songs.
As I mentioned, No Light, that's actually my favourite track on the album. I mean, I really delved into it so much because I only got it a couple of days ago, but it will have a lot more listens, don't worry. But No Light at the moment is my favourite track. I would describe it as an all-out musical assault for the ears. I think it's great. As I say, it starts with that big, punchy, wham, full-on power. If you had to pick one track from the album to showcase the band, what would you choose?
I'm actually, the thing with the album is that I think I counted the demos, like the tracks I wrote for the album not too many days ago, and I think I ended up with 22 different songs. That was the point where I had to stop writing new like ideas for the record, and we needed to start like whittling it down to the album. And No Light was written super early, and that was direct response to like playing live. Because we wanted something to be booming and heavy, and like live, it's always been a very comfortable track to like find yourself in live. Because in relationship to the tracks from Penumbra, No Light is more primitive and more like a dark cloud that you could just settle in the live show. And it kind of really built up to, like, we used to follow it with some Penumbra track. I can't remember which it was, but and yeah, No Light, it's been around for so long that I've kind of started taking it for granted. And it's the form of it settled really quickly. Like the idea of having it shouldn't be too many melodies in a way that Penumbra was. So more primitive. So I really like it. It's a very easy track to play in a way. For like, you don't really have to think; you can just feel it and play it. The tracks I think that I've been most happy with. It's hard to pick one. I'm really happy with the album actually, but Derelict, the second track on the album, was also a song that came together very easy, and it's so much fun to play. So I really like Derelict. Yeah, the latest single, Sorrow, is also a track that I'm pretty stoked. I remember writing that, and actually, you're not supposed to say that, but being very fucking happy with myself after writing that song and like walking around in the cabin which we have in the countryside, because I'd written it there, and like listening back to the demo like the day after, I was like, fuck yeah, this is good. It's not often that I'm that happy with. You tend to be like, you only hear the mistakes, and like maybe it will work itself out when we work on it, like that. But that track, I was happy that I'd been able to really put an idea forward. I had a vision of like a dancer in a black room moving, like you see a dancer dancing, and then suddenly the dancer splitting into various shapes and moving out from each other, like separating it. And I kind of wanted to put music to that vision.
There's a lot of great post-rock and post-metal bands in Sweden. Is it a quite close-knit scene? Because I saw that your first album was mixed by Magnus Lundberg of Cult of Luna, who are my favourite post-metal band by a long way. Is the scene sort of quite close-knit and everybody knows each other?
Markku plays drums in Barrens, used to play in Cult of Luna on the Beyond album. So he used to be in Cult of Luna, but I don't know the guys in Cult of Luna personally. To harken back to Scraps of Tape, like back in the beginning of the 2000s, when post-rock were like a big thing, like it wasn't a big thing, but when they started happening, like Scraps of Tape and a bunch of other Swedish post-rock bands, back then the community was really tight-knit because there were so few bands doing that. Nowadays, it's so easy to connect with bands outside of your geographical sphere. I feel like instead of like connecting to geographically close-knit bands or like close bands, you tend to connect across the world via social media to bands that you feel like you have a connection to. But of course, there are certain bands, since you live in the same city or you play shows together, you kind of meet up with. Do you know a Swedish project called Nova Rupta? It's a friend of mine, Alex. has released 4 albums with post-metal, with vocals and everything. But he's a guy I got to know here in Gothenburg because he'd heard Blessings, and then for some reason we were at the same bar one night, and you're in Blessings, and then you're in Barrens as well, because the guy who released his albums, Wogo, had Suicide Records. He had a Barrens shirt. I think he knows Robin or something. He was, and I was like, okay. So he kind of hooked up that way. I don't know the guys in Peggy Lost either, but they're like one of my favorite Swedish bands within the genre. They're amazing. There's a bunch of bands here in Gothenburg, like EF, who are friends that we played with Scraps of Tape, and Dorena, and Lights and Motion is a new band, not new band, but a project that I just recently discovered, which is more like the more beautiful post-rock. Like A Swarm of the Sun is a band that I didn't know very much about, but they released via Pelagic, and then they did some shows. And I just recently wrote to Jakob in Swarm of the Sun and saying, like, the new album is fantastic. We should play some shows. And he was like, yeah, I like your band too. Let's do that,
Now you're pushing the pluses of social media.
Yeah. the very few that there is. But maybe actually, if you want to talk community, I think actually the Pelagic community has been huge thing for us, because there's so many good bands, and there's so many bands. They push smaller bands, and then they have these bigger bands that are really via Pelagic and via, you're kind of like liking each other's social media posts, and then you kind of like send a message like that your new single is great. And I would say maybe more via Pelagic than just in Sweden.
That's how I heard about you. And that leads us into the next question, which is that you're playing the Pelagic Festival in Maastricht this summer. I mean, it's a label I've followed for a long time. As I said, I really wish I could get to that, because what a lineup.
I'm stoked on seeing Isan live. I grew up listening to a lot of black metal when I was younger, and Emperor, when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, 9th grade, like Emperor was one of my biggest bands, so I loved that. It's cool, but the whole lineup is ridiculous. We'll see what happens now, but hopefully we can stay both days, because we're performing on the Saturday with most of my bands. I'm performing with Blessings, with Barrens, and I'm doing a solo thing as well. And I'm going to try to pull that off in one day.
Wow.
So we'll see.
So no rest for the wicked on that day.
It's gonna be a sleepy ride back to Sweden, I think.
Do you have any other shows lined up to coincide with the album launch?
We're hooking up a shorter European romp through Germany mainly, I think. Playing a festival in Dresden. We were hoping to maybe open for Job in Berlin, but I think that fell through. I think they brought their own opener. But besides that, we're looking into the spring more. I think it's going to be this first, the Pelagic Fest, and then one tour. So I think that might be it with Barrens this fall.
If anybody's listening and is interested in booking you next year, I'm sure you're up for it.
We'd love to get out and play. But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, like the DIY community that we've been part of for so many years, a lot of them are like myself, like in their 40s. And it's not that the fire is gone, but the 24 hours you have each day seems to be less and less each year for some reason. And families and everything. So a lot of people they've stopped booking, and like the whole scene is so different. Like so many bands are out playing just because that's how you make money. It's not record sales anymore. So the competition is quite stiff, together with venues shutting down, and it's a whole different landscape. So
the lead time for booking shows now compared to what it was 10 years ago is insane. I mean, trying to book a show 8 or 9 months in advance is crazy.
For me, like being a pretty spontaneous person with things like this, and it doesn't work with me. Like I'm not sure if I'm alive in 8 months. I'm not sure if I'm going to. I tend to, you never know. Okay, I kind of like to let's do it now. I like that. Yeah. Luckily, we have some more adult persons in the band. So they tend to keep me grounded. So
where can people find you on social media?
I think the easiest, Instagram. is the thing. I don't think we really have anything like Facebook and Instagram is the.
You have a sort of landing page on Pelagic Records as well.
Yeah,
then?
yeah. I'm not really involved in that, but I have Instagram. I have access to the Instagram page, so via that is probably the easiest. We tend to try to answer each message. We're still such a small band that it's not a hassle to go through the messages. Like we're not overwhelmed.
Yeah,
So
well, I will include a link to your socials in the show description. The new album, Corpse Light, will be out on the 12th of September through Pelagic Records. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the rambling answers, but thank you for your interest and for the nice words on the album. I'm really happy to hear that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.